Hi, I'm JD Gunnell with Utah State University. I'm an Extension Horticulture Assistant Professor here in Davis County. We're at the Utah State University Botanical Center, and we're here to talk about fall tree planting. There's no other time in the year that's better than the fall to plant trees. You can plant trees any time of year that you'd like, but fall gives the trees a little head start. It gives the roots a head start in growing a nice root system for next spring. So we're going to go through the steps of planting a containerized tree that you've brought home from the nursery. The number one thing to consider in planting a tree is the depth. The old adage of plant the tree the same depth as the container is a little bit out of date. What you want to do is make sure you can find what's called the root flare. It's where the roots and the trunk system meet together. And 9 times out of 10, trees are buried a little too deep in the nursery industry. And it's nobody's fault, it's just how it happens, and how, as they add soil to containers, if a 5-gallon tree isn't sold in the industry, they'll bump it up, they call it, into a 10-gallon or 15-gallon, and then they'll add dirt to it, let it root out, and then it's in a healthier system. One of the worst things the nurseries could do is do nothing and allow that tree to sit in the same container for more than 1 or 2 years. What'll happen is you'll get these circling roots. This is a tree that I grew for 5 years in the same container. You can see how big that container actually was. The problem is these trees won't die quickly. What'll happen is they'll continue to grow and be healthy trees until the trunk girths out and meets these circling roots, and then it's a stranglehold where it basically commits suicide. And sometimes you don't see that within 10 or 15 years before you see it. So it's a good thing to bump trees up and get them into new containers. The best thing is to go to the nurseries this time of year. We're early November, and pick out a good tree and get it in the ground and get it established. So if you can see here, this tree's a little bit deep in the container, so we're going to plant it a little shallow in the hole. And as soon as you start to see that flare, that's where the roots are, and that's where you want it at grade. A lot of people worry this time of year that the tree's dead. You can see that the foliage is gone. If you ever wonder if a tree's alive, you can do the thumbnail scratch. And anytime you see green tissue under there, the tree's alive. So you don't need leaves on the tree to determine whether it's alive. So we're going to go ahead and plant this tree and put it in the hole and show you the right depth. Okay, so to get this out of the container, one of the easiest ways is just to tip it down, give it a few taps on the side of the bucket, loosen those roots up a little, and then slide it out slowly. And then you can look at the root system and make sure you don't have a lot of roots going in circles. If you do, you've got some fibrous roots, you can rough it up a little bit and get those roots going laterally, and then you'll just slowly place it in the hole. So we've got it in the hole. You always want to double check. This is the grade of the ground right here, and this is about where the root flare is. You can see that I've planted a little bit high, but that's okay. I'd much rather plant a tree a little high than too low. That allows the water to run away from the trunk and not cause some rot. A lot of people wonder about backfilling with organic matter. It depends. This soil here at the Botanical Center is really good. It's old farm dirt. So I don't use anything to backfill, I just use the native soil. If you've got heavy clay or high content of sand, you can add organic matter, and that helps with the water holding capacity. But like I say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So this is a containerized tree. Planted in a lot of different sizes. You can get trees in a lot of different sizes of containers. Sometimes in the nursery industry, people aren't very patient, and so they'll want an instant tree. So the nurseries will grow trees in the ground, get them some good size 2-inch, 3-inch caliper, and then they'll field dig them with a spade. They'll put those in a wire basket and burlap, and they are nice trees. They give you instant tree. You just have to be really careful that you remove all the basket and the burlap with the tree, so that again, in years, the roots aren't constricted by the wire. So now that we have it planted, again, check the depth, make sure you're good. I'll show you just in a little bit a larger caliper tree that was buried too deep and what happens to the trunk. But now that you've got the tree planted, one of the best things you can do is come in with 5-10 gallons of water, make a little well around the tree and watered it in really good. Settle any air pockets that have formed from digging in the dirt. But after you water it in this time of year, you can walk away till spring and it's good to go. Another good suggestion on young trees like this is to get a white reflective wrap and wrap around the trunk to help reflect any of that winter solar drying out or the southwest winter injury that occurs. But there you have a new tree that'll be there and happy for the next century. So a little earlier we talked about trees being buried too deep in the containers and making sure you find the root flare. At the extension office we have dead trees, problems brought in all the time to the office. This is one that got brought in, and it's a blue Atlas cedar, whether you can tell or not, but it was dead. We dug it down through the container. This is where the burlap was planted to, and you can see that that's a good 6-7 inches too deep from where this root flare is. And so the roots basically suffocated. Roots need air just as much as we need air. And so if water and air directly compete in the soil, if they get too deep or too wet, then the roots will die. So again, it's very important to find this root flare, or this area that comes and naturally widens out and meets the roots of the tree. Here's another example of a tree that we bought. Came to us this way in a Baldwin burlap container. The burlap was at this level, and so we had to dig down and find that root flare about 10 inches down. And you can see where this trunk tissue had been underground or in the soil and it started to rot away. It's healing now, or sealing itself over, and so this tree is, since we've planted it, has become a lot more happy, and it's put on a few inches. So we're here at the Varga Arboretum at the Utah State University Botanical Center. If fall is the perfect time to plant a tree, if you'd like to see over 200 different varieties and species that we have in display here, come visit us. We're at 900 South, 50 West in Kaysville, Utah. You can come and look at all the myriad of trees that do well in our arid Utah climate.